If I could ask you at this time to please stand for the presentation of colors and the national anthem, and remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our fallen heroes.
Mark time. Mark. Detail. Halt. Right. Face. Present. Arms. Order. Arms. Detail. Right. Face. Forward. March.
Thank you. You may be seated. Good morning and welcome to a very special from ACC, from Humvee to ACC, and then to Great Points on beyond that, Austin Community College's annual Veterans Appreciation and Open House. I'm Dr. Molly Beth Malcolm, Special Assistant to President of Austin Community College, Dr. Richard Rhodes. And on behalf of the President and the college, it's my honor to welcome you to ACC Highland. We have many honored guests in our audience today, beginning with all of our wonderful veterans that are here. But I would like to recognize some elected officials who are here with us today. I want to recognize our Board of Trustees members who are in attendance. And if you would please stand when I call your name: Alan Kaplan, Nan Mcraven, Tim Mahoney, and Vice Chair of the Board, Dr. Vic Villarreal. Please give them a round of applause. Because without their leadership, we wouldn't be able to do all the wonderful things that we do. And I know that we have at least one foundation member here today, Dr. John Roosh, who will be recognized again. But Dr. Roosh, would you please stand? I know we also have some other elected officials who are here, and if you would please stand and be recognized. All the elected officials who are here. City Council, and I believe we have a constable as well. So thank you for being here with us today. There's some special thanks in order as well. We want to begin by thanking the ACC Veterans Affairs Office. Our VA staff help thousands of students each semester to take advantage of the benefits they've earned through their military service and to successfully transition to college. Also want to thank again our musicians who provided the great medley this morning, Warren Heatwole and Bart Willis, for the magnificent music. And so let's give them another round of applause. They did a great job. And in such a unique fashion. Also would like to say thanks to Dr. Nancy Glass, and wherever she is, I hope she will stand as well. And she is the person who has provided the wonderful Armed Forces display for us. It's a tribute commemorating all of the fallen heroes of Texas. And this includes a wonderful tribute to Colonel Mcraven, who is the father of Admiral Mcraven, Nan, and Mariana. So we appreciate Dr. Glass doing that for us also. And finally, again, the warmest of welcomes to all of our veterans and active duty members. You are the reason that we are here. And here's what I'd like for all of you to pay attention to as we do this exercise. If you are a veteran, please stand and remain standing. So all the veterans, please stand. Let's give them a round of applause. Now, when our veterans are over working hard for us, there are people back home that are working hard for them. So would all the spouses of veterans please stand as well and remain standing? And finally, if you are a child of a veteran, no matter what your age is, please stand as well. Now, I hope everyone will look around and see how much of this audience is standing, and that is the point. We want to thank every one of you, because it's not only the veterans, it's their families, it's everyone working together that keeps our country safe. So thank all of you for being here today and for your service to our country. I forgot one person that is important to me, and he's a veteran as well. I didn't recognize my husband. Bruce Malcolm, would you please stand? I might get in trouble. Along with ACC, our co-sponsor for Admiral Mcraven's visit today is National American University. This is an institution that shares ACC's commitment to serving our veterans and helping them reach our goals. At this time, it's my honor to introduce Dr. Ronald Shape, President and Chief Executive Officer of National American University. Please welcome Dr. Shape.
Thank you, Molly, and good morning, everyone. Likewise, I'd like to thank Admiral Mcraven for the time and for allowing us to be here to share in this event. I would also like to extend our thanks to Dr. Richard Rhodes and all of the ACC staff here for hosting this fabulous event. Also want to extend recognition to John and Sue Ann Roosh here in front. John overseeing our Roosh Graduate Center and launching our new doctoral program in community college leadership. John and Sue Ann, thank you both very much. And there's tons of other folks, but for the sake of time, I won't go through all of them, but glad everybody's here. I would like to piggyback on some of the comments that Molly said, recognizing our military men and women, active duty, retired folks. And as I was walking over here this morning, the memorial here on the table reminded me quite clearly of the sacrifices that all of you make on a daily basis. And so thank all of you for the freedoms that we all enjoy. Appreciate your service and all the hard work that you do immensely. National American University has had a long-standing relationship with the military and a deep understanding of the many challenges that our military men and women face on a daily basis. And we understand what those challenges are and the challenges that are added to that in trying to complete a degree. And National American University has worked very, very hard over the years to provide options and opportunities for our servicemen and women to help them get in and get an education while being faced with training exercises, deployments, let alone spending time with family and friends. And in doing so, we have developed and designed a very direct and flexible career education plan for our military students, understanding again and recognizing the efforts and the hard work, and to take a look at at the ability to recognize college credits for training exercises and for occupational specialties, as well as flexible programming to meet the demands of our servicemen and women. Online degree offerings that will follow our students wherever they may go. Participating in the Yellow Ribbon program, the Khan app, and the GEM programs, as well as providing reduced tuition rates for our military students and their spouses and siblings. I would like to introduce one of our former military students, and I'm proud to say one of our current staff members, Elizabeth Burton. Elizabeth has served in the U.S. Army for 7 years in human resources. During this time, she was stationed in Fort Benning, Georgia, Seoul, Korea, Fort Rucker, Alabama, and Germany. There was the name for the one in Germany, but I won't try to pronounce it because I can't. Elizabeth later pursued an associate degree in business at Central Texas College before transferring to NAU, where she is currently working to complete her bachelor's degree in business administration, and as she and I discussed earlier, on to her master's degree in human resources, where she enjoys her passion. So now that it's been publicly said, Elizabeth, you've got to finish. That. Elizabeth has been an NAU employee for the past year as an associate admissions rep and a reentry coordinator, and it's truly my pleasure to introduce Elizabeth Burton.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here with you today as we seek opportunities to strengthen our community through education. As a former military service member, I am honored to continue to serve those who constantly fight for our freedom on a daily basis. As an advisor at National American University, I am able to guide, motivate, and inspire all students to be all they can be. As an NAU student, I'm obligated to practice what I preach. Pursuing a degree can be challenging, especially for military personnel and their family members. They're constantly relocating, training, and carrying out the responsibilities required by the armed forces. ACC and NAU make it possible for soldiers, Marines, sailors, airmen, and their family members to continue to serve while investing in their futures. Upon completion of my bachelor's in business administration, I plan to continue my career with National American University and eventually serve my country once again as a Department of Defense Human Resources Director. I appreciate all who are taking part in this event today. Your support and participation in education is vital to the future of this community and country. Thank you.
Austin Community College enrolls some 2,000 veteran students each year, each with a story to tell and a commitment to reaching their highest potential. One of those veterans that's with us today is Joshua Gamboa. Joshua is presently a student at Austin Community College, and he has a great story to tell, and I'm not going to tell you any more than that. I believe he'll share his connection. Please welcome Joshua Gamboa.
Good morning. Thank you to all the vets out here, to their families, to everybody who serves us, and also thank you so much to the staff at each of the universities that makes opportunities possible for both my brothers and sisters who served. When they asked me to do this, it was a little bit daunting to tell a story. It's pretty funny. I haven't tucked my shirt in for the last 4 years. but I have a connection here. The last time I saw Admiral Mcraven was in Afghanistan in Bagram when he was the DCO of JSOC, and I served as a JOC NCO. So they told me I had to speak. They told me I had to speak in front of my old CEO, and I was like, I gotta shave and tuck my shirt in. So that happened. I did 12 years in the Army, and it's a pretty daunting task to go from kicking doors to all of a sudden leave the service and think about changing careers, changing gears. One of the biggest hurdles is just not knowing where to start. not knowing how you can actually go from just a fast-paced lifestyle in the military to actually pursuing a higher education dream. And for a lot of us, we feel like it's an unreachable goal. After I left in '09, I worked at jobs just kind of keep my head above water. And eventually I plateaued, and I talked to my then girlfriend, now my wife. I said, you know, I think I plateaued, and I think that we need to pursue college. I have no idea where to start. And so, it started with a phone call to ACC. Cynthia Mendez, if you're out there, it started with a phone call to you. And then, from that point on, I have never had to ask a question or go very far to get the answers or to get the help I needed. So, 2.5 years later this fall, I'll be transferring into St. Edward's University, where I pursue a degree in accounting. And in a couple years later, God willing, I'll be a CPA, and if you need your taxes done, give me a call. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, and I'm going to be looking for your card when you're that CPA. You know, we're really lucky at ACC to have a special connection to Admiral William Mcraven. Nan Mcraven has served on the Board of Trustees for Austin Community College since 2002, and that includes terms as Vice Chair and Chair of the Board. Trustee Mcraven is a public affairs consultant, a doctoral candidate in the University of Texas at Austin's Community College Leadership Program, and best of all, she's the younger sister to Admiral William Mcraven. Hey, I did what I was told to do by my trustee. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you Trustee Nan Mcraven.
Thank you, Molly Beth. Good job. Thank you. It's actually my pleasure today to introduce my brother, Admiral William Bill Mcraven. Bill is presently commander of the Special Operations Command at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida. He has oversight for 66,000 soldiers and sailors stationed around the world. But let me first start by introducing you to our older sister, Mariana Jacobs. She's here with her family, and we are definitely a family affair. Our family actually is a military family. The three of us grew up traveling around the world with our Air Force parents, and from every place to Texas, to Langley Air Force Base, to North Carolina several times, where Bill and I were both born, and then, of course, to Fontainebleau, France, and then back to San Antonio, where our father retired. Bill graduated from San Antonio, from high school, and then went on here to the University of Texas on an ROTC grant. Now, many people think he's an academy graduate, but he's actually a Hook 'em Horns UT graduate. From UT, he went on to SEALs training in Coronado, and today, Bill is actually the senior SEALs in the Navy, and I think the term for that is the bullfrog. Joining Bill here today is his wife, Georgianne. He met Georgianne at UT, and I think they were married actually 36 years ago this month, perhaps one day right in here. And they have 3 children. My mother often said that Bill married above himself, and my sister and I would agree. I had a chance to be in Fort Hood with the educational service officers there who are joining us here today, and had a chance to really understand how many of our military personnel are actually transitioning to civilian life every day, every month. And it was really, the numbers are incredible. And I say that because I know many of you here in the audience, obviously we've been talking about that today, are doing just that and have done that. And I just want you to know that Bill comes from an education family, and we've asked him to speak today just for a little bit, and then he'll take some questions about the importance of education and training to military personnel. We come from a family of educators. My mother was a teacher, my sister was a teacher, my niece is a teacher, our uncles, our aunts. We even have one cousin who is actually a chancellor of a community college in Arkansas. My dad went back to school after he retired on the GI Bill and was able to become a City of San Antonio employee, got a master's degree in San Antonio, and a really great second career with the City of San Antonio. In addition to education, our family really values commitment to our country. My sister and I have often been asked over the last few years, are you proud of your brother? Are you proud of your brother? Well, I know many of you know who Bill is because you've heard of some of these high visibility missions that he's been involved in. Neptune Spear, that would be Osama bin Laden. The Somalia Pirates, I know it is Captain Phillips, the movie. And then the capture of Saddam Hussein. So I've often heard him say that these are sporty missions. These are really sporty missions. And that every day his team goes on numerous missions and operations protecting our country and our allies. So are we proud? Yes, we're proud. But probably more tougher than what he has to do on these missions is the time he has to spend in Washington, D.C. And actually, I think the reason he's running a little late today, he was coming back from Washington, D.C., getting yet another award. And again, I can't name off all of the awards he's gotten, but my sister and I had a chance last fall to be in DC when he got the William J. Donovan, the OSS Society Award, and then this last fall he was awarded the French Legion of Honor. So I'm often fearful that he's going to have some wardrobe malfunction because of all those awards on his chest. I see that he doesn't have them all on today, so no fear. But I'm actually pretty proud of him, not because of the medals and the missions, but I'm proud of him because he takes time in his busy schedule to call family, friends. He takes time to write a letter to a kid who wants to know who's quieter, a ninja or a Navy SEAL. He takes time to call potential Navy Academy people. And most of all, he takes time when his sister asks him to come and speak to you today. So yes, we're proud. And on behalf of my sister and I'd like to introduce you to our brother, William Mcraven.
Well, thanks very much, Nan. Can you all hear me in the back?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't have any prepared remarks today because, frankly, I wanted to kind of speak from the heart a little bit about my sense of the military and education. And all of you wouldn't be here today if you weren't interested in that, if you weren't enrolled, if you didn't think that the part of education that you're going through right now was going to be important to you. So, Nan mentioned that we were raised in a military family. My father did not get his degree until he was in his late 40s when he went back to school in San Antonio. So he left football. He was a professional football player with the Cleveland Rams. Left football to go join the Army Air Corps, and then fought in World War II and went on to have a full career in the United States Air Force. But he recognized the value of education. And as Nan mentioned, our mother was an educator, and I can tell you my whole life, she was the one who taught us good English. She made sure that what we did was done correctly. She understood good order and discipline in the classroom. She understood good order and discipline in the house. And my dad understood the need for a college education. And so after 26 plus years of being in the military without ever having a degree, he went back to school. And it was not easy. He had a job going on. He had to go to night school for many years, but he wanted that degree. And he got it, and then, as Nan said, went on to get a master's degree after that. So I was raised by the Greatest Generation. If you look back on the Greatest Generation, and the GI Bill that fundamentally changed how the United States looked after World War II. So when the GI Bill came into effect, you had millions of GIs coming back. Almost 8 million GIs after the war took advantage of the GI Bill. It changed everything about the United States of America, everything, because they came back and they were able to go get a college degree or go get a technical degree and put that back to use in society. So when you look at the GI Bill across its history, it's absolutely phenomenal. And of course today, I'm sure most of the veterans out here are on the GI Bill. But I've got kind of three different lenses that I look at education through. So again, I was growing up, so the Greatest Generation really kind of helped me get going, and I saw the value of the education piece through my father and others. But when I came into the SEAL teams in 1977, over 75% of my year group, the officers that were part of my year group in 1977, were prior enlisted. They had all been enlisted, gone to school, got their degree, and came into the SEAL teams. And they raised me. So I was a young pup coming right out of the University of Texas. These were seasoned veterans, Vietnam veterans from the SEAL community who got their degree to become officers so frankly they could train and educate an entire new generation of SEALs. And so I was raised with those guys until the Vietnam generation eventually retired. Now, as 9/11 happened, I watched this new generation of young men and women step up and volunteer to be in the military. And today, most of those folks that are staying in the military are trying to get an education through the military benefit, through the military system, or they have gotten out and have elected to pursue their education through the GI Bill. So 3 different lenses, but in every case, whether it was the greatest generation of the World War II, whether it was the Vietnam generation, or whether it was the 9/11 generation, you see the value of education. So today, just, off the top of my head, I know that a college degree will get you $18,000 more a year than those folks that only graduated from high school. And that's as a starting salary. So the group between the ages of 25 and 30, if you get a college degree, you will go into the workforce at almost $18,000 higher than your high school counterparts. And that's for starters. Frankly, it goes exponential from there. Your earning power, your understanding of the world, everything about you will change with a college degree. When you look at the folks in the military that got a college degree that went on to do things, in terms of the GI Bill, in terms of how they valued education, Senator Bob Dole, Senator Glenn, John Glenn, Supreme Court justices, Clint Eastwood, people that served time in the military understood the value of an education. And today I will tell you, I have an opportunity to talk frequently with CEOs. In fact, just this week, Nan mentioned, I had an opportunity up in Washington, D.C. to be with the business executives for national security, BENS they call it, business executives for national security. And I was making some remarks that evening to the BENS executives, and my point to them was pretty simple. You have the opportunity to hire veterans. And let me tell you what you're going to get when you hire a veteran. You are going to get somebody with incredible life experience. I was talking to the young man in the back who was a double amputee from his time in Baghdad. Let me tell you, if you don't think that's a life experience that transitions to the workforce, you're mistaken. It absolutely, positively is. So you will get veterans that come in, wounded or not, that will have life experiences that will pale in comparison to their civilian counterparts, or their civilian counterparts' experience will pale in comparison to that. So they have life experience. They have leadership skills. From the time you enter the Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marine Corps, as an enlisted individual, as an officer, that's the first thing they teach you, is leadership. A couple of years back, West Point, the United States Military Academy, was voted the #1 school in the nation for leadership. Because the veterans that came back to teach at West Point were teaching what they'd learned from their time in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they were growing this young corps of officers to be American leaders. You learn leadership, whether it's enlisted leadership as an NCO or officer leadership. That is a talent that industry wants. You are self-sufficient. You are disciplined. You come in with a work ethic. All of these will be great for you as you enter the workforce, particularly if you have a degree. But even if you don't, I will tell you again, my lesson to the business executives was, I guarantee you, I absolutely guarantee you, if you hire a veteran, your workforce will be better off for it. Because they will show up and they will make a difference. And the people around them will be inspired by these veterans. They will be inspired by the stories like Joshua told. And oh, by the way, I can tell you, Joshua looks a hell of a lot better now than he did when he was my jock NCO. He tucked in his shirt. But again, just to tell a little bit of the story about Joshua, because, this is kind of the American success story that applies to everybody out here. He comes in, he goes over to Afghanistan, goes over to Iraq, he serves as the JOC is the Joint Operations Center. So this is really the hub of all the activity that goes on in the Special Operations community. And as an NCO, a non-commissioned officer, his job is frankly to make sure officers like me understand what's going on. He's got to manage everything in the JOC. That's what the JOC NCO does. He's in charge of what's up on the screen, what's being chatted, making sure that, again, the officers making the decisions and the senior NCOs making the decisions have an understanding of what's happening. Where do you get that kind of experience? You get that kind of experience being in the military. Will that kind of experience transition? Will that relay over to a great job, outside the military? Of course it will. Of course it will. And Joshua is one of, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of veterans that will be entering the workforce here in the next decade. So you bet education is important. I will tell you, I got a lot out of my time here at the university. In addition to getting a degree in journalism, and people kind of laughed at that initially. They said, "My gosh, you're going to go in and you're going to be you're going to have this degree in journalism. Is that marketable in the military?" And I said, what you have to learn to do in the military is you need to learn to be able to convey your ideas. And journalism allowed me to do that, kind of short, succinct, and frankly, as I have applied my trade in the military, that's been very, very helpful. Of course, education has done a number of things for me. It also allowed me to meet my wife, Georgianne, here at the University of Texas, which has paid 36 years of dividends, and that's been terrific. So again, I wanted to thank ACC and the National American University for sponsoring this fabulous program. Again, I will tell you, as veterans, you need to understand what your veterans benefits are out there. You need to understand what your educational benefits are. You need to understand what the websites are that can lead you there. If you're enrolled in either of these two institutions, you probably know what they are. But if you're interested in enrolling, make sure you contact your Veterans Administration to find out all the benefits that are out there, because frankly, they're terrific. You as a workforce are going to change the United States of America. You are going to fundamentally change how we do everything because you are getting an education. And I could not be prouder of you and could not be proud of the two institutions that are supporting you to do that. So again, thank you very much. I would like you to open it up to any questions, and it can be a free-for-all. I'm pretty good at answering general questions. And if I can, I'll make sure I tell you that. Please.
Fellow UT and RCC, a graduate, by the way, 91. So
Terrific.
Good to meet you. Come back to ACC to pursue a career in computer network security.
Right.
And I'm wondering, just from what you've been able to see, what you talked about in terms of cybersecurity.
You bet.
What are your impressions about that?
Yeah, so, obviously, cybersecurity is one of the up-and-coming fields. So, I think you're on a good path there in terms of marketable skills. But I will tell you, again, for the broader audience, any education you get in whatever curriculum you're in, you're going to find that as a veteran, when you take whatever you decided to do, journalism, any sort of liberal arts, or something more technical, that will be a marketable skill with your veteran background. But cybersecurity is, we are a very, very networked world. There's some goodness to that, but there is some badness to that. And as you know, the hackers that are out there, some state-sponsored, some not state-sponsored, create problems. They create problems for every aspect of industry, every aspect of the Department of Defense, every aspect of business enterprises writ large. So the ability to kind of protect your grid, and whether, again, that's a business grid or a Department of Defense grid, is increasingly important. So anything you can do along those lines, I think you're going to find that's, again, a good career field for you.
Hi, thank you. Hi there, my name is Professor Trahan. I teach at ACC, and I just have a question for you because I do have a lot of vets in my classroom.
Good.
And I'm a Army brat myself.
Good.
In '77, we were getting the news, 6 months at Fort Sam Houston, going over to Longitool Hospital, and I have a lot of memories as an Army brat about going on base and shopping at the PX and all that kind of stuff. So I really have a strong feeling for the vets and their families. I want to support them. You said you have 3 lenses.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, what do you think is different about this generation that I need to do to support them better?
Because, when you look around at this generation relative to mine or my father's, the outward appearance is a heck of a lot different than it was for my generation or my dad's. So a lot of these young kids come in, they've got tattoos, they've got earrings, they like hip-hop music, But I will tell you, they are this century's greatest generation, without a doubt. They volunteered to come into a wartime environment. This is an all-volunteer military. They raised their hands. Men and women raised their hands and said, I want to join. And I understand the risks. So you are getting, with this generation, I will tell you they are as good as their fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers before them. And as long as you treat them that way, as long as you understand that their outward appearance has nothing to do with what's in here, then you'll do just fine. Because they have incredible integrity, incredible drive, incredible determination, and incredible patriotism. And there is no doubting any of that. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a widow of a 100% disabled veteran, and Trustee Mcraven was talking about how you kept in touch with family and
Right.
everyone else. How were you able to balance that with your stellar career?
Yeah.
Could you give us some insight, and also that might be helpful for students transitioning into the classroom?
Yeah, so the question is, as a commander, you have a pretty busy schedule. But unfortunately, we've had a lot of casualties. We've had a number, in my special operations community alone, we've had over 400 killed in action since 9/11, and thousands wounded, many of them, double, triple amputees. The fact of the matter is, as a commander, your first and your most important responsibility is to the troops and their family. That's your number one priority. Don't worry about fighting the fight. You'll be able to do that. You take care of the troops and you take care of their family, and you'll be just fine. Yeah, thanks. All right, Joshua, you've seen this before. I have a passion for my troops. So I would tell you, you have to do that. Any commander knows if you don't do that, then what good are you as a commander? So you bet. I take the time. I try to write a personal letter to every one of the spouses, the widowed spouses. I go visit folks in Walter Reed Bethesda now, or in Fort Sam Houston, and I am always inspired by them. I am inspired by them. And frankly, when you can take the opportunity to sit down and talk to these young vets, again, this young man, double amputee in the back here, and I'm sure there's other wounded vets here in the audience. All you got to do is spend 5 minutes with them. You don't even have to. You spend 1 minute with them, and you walk away inspired. And when they can inspire a commander, and that commander is in charge of 66,000 people, and my decisions every day are based on my interaction with young soldiers, that young soldier's ability to change me, that allows me to change my force, is pretty powerful. But you have to understand rule number one. It's all about the soldiers. It's all about the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and the Coast Guardmen that actually we have had working with us, and their families. Take care of them first, and everything else will work out.
We have another question.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm an ACC student, and I have a question for you, sir. We all recognize the change in the security in the whole world between Asia and Europe and Ukraine, or in Mexico, or the Arab Spring revolutions in Middle East and North Africa. How you, as an administrator, big administrator here in the United States, work very efficiently to secure the United States around these all circumstances. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll give you a sense of my job responsibility. So as my sister said, I've got Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines that work for me that are special operations forces. Those forces, I man, train, and equip them. So my responsibility is to make sure they are ready to go to combat. And then when they are ready, then I send them to the geographic region where they conduct those operations. And they're not all combat. A lot of what we do is training partner forces so they can be prepared to handle their own national security problems. It's a lot better for us not to have to go to combat and to help kind of train forces ahead of time so that, again, that nation can take care of its own security problems. So as we look around the world today, and you touched on a number of them, but there are a lot of problem areas out there. Some of them are incredibly complex. When you look at the situation in Syria, it's very, very difficult to take a look at that and make some immediate assessments on how you're going to deal with it. You know, if people think that there are easy answers to Syria, then they haven't spent any time in combat, because there are no easy answers to most of the complex problems out there. The Arab Spring that has generated, you know, problems in Libya. So there's a lot of problems areas out there. What I will tell you is that the leadership, and I say this, you know, from the president as the commander-in-chief, his national security team, the joint staff of military officers, and the office of the Secretary of Defense, the civilian policymakers, we spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours every week looking at these complex problems, making recommendations to the policymakers on our best military advice for how to deal with these things. But again, it's not just about the military. So when you see a problem out there, you have to look at kind of a whole of government approach, which we do. So there's a diplomatic piece to this, there's an economic piece of this, there's a military piece of this, there's an AID, an aid piece of this. Everything has got to be looked at kind of holistically. If you make the mistake of looking at a very serious, complex problem through, again, a single lens being the military, then I think you're gonna find fatal flaws in your response to the problem. But I will tell you that the quality of the leadership in all the services. So as I look out here at the vets, and I know you're from every service, I know personally the chiefs of all of your services. They are fabulous, fabulous Americans. Their wives, in this case, are spectacular. They are people that are absolutely committed to the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. I mean, as committed as I am to my soft guys, these service chiefs are committed to their respective services, to their soldiers, to their sailors, to their airmen, to their Marines, and I know them all well. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I mean, the leadership from top to bottom is fantastic. So sometimes I think when people see problems out there, they wonder whether or not we're doing enough. What I can tell you is we're doing everything we can as a military to kind of influence the decisions and provide our best military advice. And we've got fabulous leaders that allow us and help us to do that. Yes, sir.
Before I became trustee, I taught at ACC for a number of years. And once they would start to open up to me and
Right.
start telling me some things that happened while they were overseas. And as an instructor, we have people that,
Sure.
that at ACC that can talk to our veterans on that, but the person's run me, and I felt that I had to act. And I had a very high degree of anxiety.
Right.
And that over time I got really good at it because many of them came to me and opened up in the classroom. Can you share any
Yeah, absolutely.
maybe in the workplace, if you have a hiring manager that might be outside the classroom, but maybe in the workplace, someone that might be facing that as well?
Right. Yeah, and so the question was really about, you know, if you're a workplace manager and you have veterans that come to you and the veterans have got issues, how do you deal with that, I think. But let me back up just a second before I answer that piece of it. So I saw, you know, a large number of you in here are veterans, which means that you have served, you know, probably in the 9/11 period, or if not, the Vietnam period before that, or somewhere in between. And I will tell you, for those veterans that I spend time with, the 9/11 veterans, which are most of the young men and women I spend time with, if you were in that war, you have been changed by that war. You have been fundamentally changed by the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, or the pressures and the stresses of deploying for almost 13 years straight. And that's really what it is. And I don't care whether you were on an aircraft carrier or whether you were running a troop convoy in Baghdad. You have been fundamentally changed by the nature of the last 13 years. So I would tell you as veterans, you need to understand that. You need to appreciate that, you know, you're going to have some issues out there and you need to seek help. I have spent my time as the Special Operations Command Commander going around and talking to my force. And I take my Command Sergeant Major with me, Sergeant Major Chris Ferris and his wife. And Chris is very open about this, or I would be reluctant to tell it. But Chris, who was the Delta Force Sergeant Major, Chris, from the time he was 18 years old, has been fighting. He has been in essentially every conflict since he was 18. You know, Black Hawk Down in Mogadishu, Bosnia, Kosovo, Iraq, Afghanistan. And so as he has gone through all of those pressures, you know, he and his wife and their 2 daughters struggled a lot with this. And Chris tells his story. And his story as a Command Sergeant Major is an E9, the senior NCO, and he has been my senior NCO, both in my previous tour as the JSOC commander and in my tour here as the SOCOM commander, because he is that good. But his story to the enlisted guys out there and to the officers is, hey, you're going to have problems. You know, this is just this is part of the human nature. You have issues, deal with them, and help somebody help you deal with them. Do not try to hide them away. get some professional help. And Chris goes through, again, a very, to some degree, gut-wrenching and very opening discussion about the troubles he's had with his wife and his daughters, and how they have gotten over this because they have had professional counseling, professional support from the military, because his circle of friends helped him through some of these tough times, and because people had confidence in him as an NCO. And so I think as you, as an administrator, you know, or in a teaching environment, come into these vets, the best thing you can do, if you sense they have problems, is encourage them to go get help. Because today, the stigma, and this is a big part of it, we are trying to buy down the stigma. And I will tell you, in the special operations community, and I think it's across the military, we tell veterans, look, if you've got a problem with your head or your heart or whatever it is, in terms of your spirit or your soul or, you know, mental, go get help. Because we view it just like you had a bad leg, in terms of nobody will stigmatize it. We will not stigmatize it. And because if you begin to do that, if you begin to question the value of a person because he's had some tough issues he's dealing with or she's dealing with, then you kind of never get over that hump. So again, in that environment, encourage them to go get help. And there's a lot of professional help out there, you know, and frankly, just counseling, just spending time around other vets. And for those of you that are vets, you know the deal. You know, sometimes the people that have not been through the situations you've been through have trouble understanding. And it is, you know, no hit on those that didn't serve in uniform, but it is different. I mean, it's like somebody who was raised in academia and you're talking to, you know, a non-academic. So for the veterans out there, find somebody you can talk to and talk about it. Talk about it. And I think you'll find yourselves much better off as a result of that.
We have time for about one more question. I think somebody has a microphone.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Jonathan Norris. I'm an Army vet. I graduated from St. Edward's University, degree in political science. My thesis paper was on Special Forces operations in support of the war on terror and how effective they are. And I wanted to ask whether force is the only means or the best means of ending the war on terror.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So what you do have to, again, as I mentioned earlier, you really have to have a balanced approach to this. You know, we learned a long time ago that, you know, you can't kind of kill your way to victory. It is not just about taking high-value targets off, you know, the target deck. The fact of the matter is, you've got to work with the local population. You've got to kind of buy down the extremism. You've got to make sure you're addressing the issues that give rise to extremism. So it really does require a whole-of-government approach. We are a very, very small part of that. And I would say that we are absolutely, you know, I mean, is it important to have special operations? You bet it is. But will that necessarily, in and of itself, resolve the problem? Absolutely not. You know, you have to work diplomacy. You have to build partner capacity. You have to provide the right amount of aid. You've got to do rule of law. I mean, all of these sort of things. Buy down corruption. You know, make sure that the folks where there is rising extremism have, you know, clean water and good food and things, basic necessities, human necessities. So again, we've learned this a long time ago. I think people think, you know, if you're the military, that you think the answer to everything is force. I think it's just the opposite. We as the military understand, we know first and foremost that is not the answer to everything. And that frankly, you know, we look at, again, partnering with our interagency partners and those folks out there that bring the whole of government effort to solve some of these problems. Well, again, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us today here at ACC and giving our community and our veterans an opportunity to hear from you. It's been absolutely wonderful. And joining me here is Dr. Luella Tate, who is the Dean of Student Services at the Round Rock campus and also the chair of the Veterans Advisory Committee. And by golly, she has the most passion I've ever seen for the veterans of our college and works so hard. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tate to wrap these things up.
I thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. Admiral Mcraven, on behalf of Austin Community College and National American University, I want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for your remarks and just for taking time out of your schedule to be with us. We have a token of appreciation here.
That's bigger than a token.
Yeah. Just a little something for you. Let's give him another round of applause. To all of our guests, family, and friends, we want to thank you so much for coming today. We're so grateful and we so appreciate your being here today. From this point on, our event will continue from Humvee to ACC. And you'll be able to enjoy some light refreshments right here in the center. I ask at this time if there are exhibitors or vendors here, if you could please begin to take your stations so you'll be ready for the audience to come over. So at the resource fair,